We're going live. Ooh, here we go. We're live. Yeah, after kind of a hectic week, right, Dalan? We kind of did a few podcasts for E3 week, which was kind of exciting, I guess, sort of. Bunch of
I'm
news
pretty sure it
broke.
was a hectic week for pretty much everybody who's a podcaster and does video games.
Yeah, I know that the content really went up for that week, man, and we're still dealing with it. So we're here. We're kind of
We're
back.
dealing with the fallout.
Yeah, we're kind of dealing with it. We're kind of back to a normally scheduled program, I guess you could say, with Salient Points number 36. I am your host, Carlos Macias, along with my co-host over there on the other side,
Dalan Kirkwood.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again on here on our regularly scheduled program. So last week we sort of did a whole what are we most hyped for? It was still Salient Points. We were still racking up points and all that, but it was more of a hype level. Now we're excluding news. We're doing a top 10. So if you guys haven't seen this before, it's basically Salient Points is your weekly top 10 news breakdown where the points don't really matter, but they kind of do. So Dalan and I mash up our top news articles for the last week, and out the other end comes out a weighted top 10 of our favorites. And this week, Dalan, we're starting off pretty strong, I would say, man, because some of this is like we did talk about it a little bit last week, but there's some new wrinkles, or there's some things that we were able to kind of marinate on, right? For example, the first one with 16 points is Cyberpunk 2077, and the fact that it doesn't have a publisher. You know, the Cyberpunk 2077's appearance at E3 kind of left players wanting more. And I think it served as perfect bait for a potential publisher, right? CD Projekt Red designer Patrick Mills says that the title is supposed to be out during this console generation, you know, but I'm thinking it might be a possible sort of like a GTA 5 release where there's one in the spring and then there's like a follow-up next-gen fall remastered edition, if you will. But I don't know. I have my own ideas as to who could be the publisher. Who do you think could publish this game? Could it be Activision, EA, Warner Brothers, a first party? What do you think?
I'm hoping it's not Warner Brothers because they have their own mess ups as it is. But I didn't actually realize
their own mess ups. Man, see, we're already starting. It's already
I'm talking about Warner Brothers. Hey, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm just thinking theatrically. They have their own mess ups.
Yeah, no, they have their own video game division.
And name two video games that have succeeded by Warner Brothers aside from Batman.
Well, I think they're not the biggest publisher, right? But they do, they do the Batman thing, and I think they were somehow involved in some of the Lego stuff, right? The Telltale games. It's not the big, but I mean, as far as publishing rights, all you need is somebody that controls distribution in an area, right? Like I'm sure CD Projekt Red will have someone for Europe. Where they're from. I think it's a Polish developer. I don't want to get it wrong, but I think they're Polish in Europe somewhere. So I'm sure they're going to have a publisher there, and there's going to be a different publisher here.
Man, I thought they did, and I was hoping they did because I just want to see them come out.
What are you talking about? That they have a publisher?
Yeah, I thought when they originally announced 2077, they already had a publisher.
No, man, I think
they actually launched their game, but apparently not. No, it's just I was thrown for a loop when I found out that they weren't. I mean, I knew CD Projekt was doing a great job in building their game because everybody's been waiting for this for a couple of years now. And then when we finally got our trailer, we're like, yeah, it's coming out. And then, no, you don't have a publisher. We're like, wait, what happened?
Well, it's usually like I was saying, publishers usually just distribution rights, right? It's like they get a 10%, 15% or whatever it is to like, okay, we're going to distribute in North America. Don't worry about it. You guys just focus on your game. And I think sometimes publishers sort of share in advertisement. So it's not just publishing, but it's advertisement and all these other things where they have these connections that the developer, you know, they can focus strictly on their game. And the publisher is like, all right, here we go. We're going to fund part of the project. We're going to do some advertisement and we're going to work it out that way. But you know what I was thinking, Dalan? I don't know, man. I mean, we do have Microsoft is getting really bullish. We talked about it last week where they bought up a whole bunch of publishers, right? One of the ones that you kind of lamented was Ninja Theory, right? That you weren't too happy about that. But I think there's rumors going around that maybe the next Xbox comes out in 2020, which now that I think about it a little bit more, wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility, considering that the last time Microsoft was on top was with the 360, and it released a year prior to the PS3. So I don't know, man. Microsoft is getting a little desperate. They're buying up publishers. They're doing this. I don't know. I think they might make a deal with Cyberpunk, or with CD Projekt Red, where they're like, you know what? Release this thing. It might even only be a year exclusive, but it's Microsoft picks them up. It's like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll do the publishing. You're gonna release on the next Xbox, and we'll be good. We'll be all right. We'll do a little time exclusive like Tomb Raider or something like that. But
the hype, because after they made The Witcher, you never know. Sony might try and actually bid them out.
I was thinking Sony could be a potential suitor, but I think Sony is just so heavy and has their hands on all these different cookie jars that it is possible.
They don't care. They will buy it.
It's possible, but I don't think there's going to be an outright buying or an outright publishing rights. I think it would be more of a timed exclusive, man. Whether it's on the Sony end or on the Microsoft end, but I don't know, man. I got a feeling. I got a little.
You mean like a temporary contract or something like that?
Yeah, because they've done it before. With Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider was like for about a year. I think it was Rise of the Tomb Raider. Because the original was on PS3 360, right? I believe. And then the follow-up, Rise of the Tomb Raider, was exclusive on Xbox for a year. So I don't know, Xbox is ramping up. They're trying to get, they might pull a Switch on us, right? Where Switch kind of pulled out the big guns and they had Mario and Zelda in the same year. So I don't know. I'm thinking 2020, Cyberpunk 2077. I know they're talking about that. It might be out this year or during this console generation, I should say. But I don't know, man. That game looks a little too good. I'm a little too hyped for it to believe that they're ready to go, without a publisher, without all this stuff. I'm pretty sure they're far enough along. But, and actually another thing, on 360, The Witcher 2 released exclusively on 360, right? So it didn't even come out on PS3. So maybe there's some precedent. Maybe there's some relationship there that that Microsoft rekindles and we get to see this thing. Would you be upset that you would have to buy the next generation Xbox to pick up Cyberpunk, or you would do it, right? You would have to pick it, right?
I would definitely be upset if I have to do it, but I might just do it. I mean, I've actually held off on buying consoles just so I could put money towards life. But
you gotta buy the next console. I mean, even if you're you know what, you're usually pretty delayed, right, on consoles, right? Like maybe a year.
I figured to myself I was just gonna skip a generation because VR came out and
Dalan. Let's be real. You're not skipping no kind of generations, man. You might be a year delayed, a year and a half, 2 years, but you ain't skipping no generations, man. That's the ridiculousness of your statement. But you know what? If you are a little delayed, maybe by that time the PS5 will come out, and there you go. You get your.
Well, I can say it this way: I bought a PS4, but I completely skipped out on the Xbox One X. So and the Xbox One, I was just
but you're still in the generation though. You got a PS4, man. I mean, you're in the generation. I think I don't know, man. I have a feeling that it's Microsoft. There's a whole lot of things where maybe Cyberpunk looks at some of the exclusives. I mean, they've done Titanfall and they have their own experience with Witcher 2. So to them, maybe they go, you know what, maybe it's not worth it to do an exclusive. But who knows? Maybe Microsoft comes in and backs up the Brinks truck and they're like, we got
the Brinks truck.
don't even trip. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll be glad either way because I'm just a sucker for new consoles. So I'm going to buy both day one. So it's kind of like I'll be good either way. But other than that, Dalan, what else we got next?
All right, so at 16 points, we got our second thing here. The whole controversy between Sony and Fortnite. Actually, it's just Sony with Fortnite, being that the morning after the E3 event, people tried to actually download Fortnite. They tried to download Fortnite on the Switch, and suddenly people found out that they couldn't play it. It's only because, they play it on the PS4 and PlayStation doesn't want to let people share their account between other consoles because apparently PlayStation doesn't like crossplay, even though their motto is for the players, and that doesn't really work out if you got this whole lock on the account.
No, man. As soon as they're beating Microsoft 3-1 on their console sales, the hubris sets in, and they're kind of like, you know what? we're good. This is what we're about. We're gonna stronghold everyone. If you want to play, you know, you got to play with the. But it is unfortunate, right? That this is the problem is you wouldn't know, right? So you're playing on PS4, having the time of your life, right? In Fortnite.
Well, actually, it's not even just the PS4 though. You could have been playing on the Xbox, the PC, and then at
whatever
any
system,
point, though,
whatever. But I'm saying, like, say you started on the PS4, right? I guess, which is,
right.
And then you're like, I want to switch to Xbox, or I want to play it on the Switch. Now that it's super portable, it's perfectly portable for a lot of people, right? Switch everything. But it is one of those things where, like, you play on the PS4, you start off and you're like, what? I didn't even know. If I would have known, people would have behaved differently, right? But I don't know. This looks bad, man. I don't know. What do you think? I think it looks bad on Sony.
I know it looks bad on Sony, but Sony doesn't care. They basically said we have 80 million players and people are still playing on our system. We don't mind if you actually try and play on other systems, but you're gonna have to repurchase everything.
Well, I don't know exactly how it works, right? I mean, you're tied. It means your Fortnite account, so you have to make a new account, right? So what it's saying is, like, you can't have your new loot or whatever it is, which I guess is what you're saying, right? The bigger problem is if you've bought things over time, because it is one of, you know, free to play, and you're gonna buy microtransactions and all that. You would have to make a whole completely different account, you know, to separate from a PlayStation one. So you need a PlayStation one and then one that works with Xbox, your PC, and your Switch, right? Which is
people put hours into Fortnite, gaining all kinds of gear, making sure your character looks awesome, being able to be OP. Well, I don't know about being OP because I haven't played Fortnite that much, but I do know that people looked awesome with all their different costumes and sets. But you don't have any of that if you play on PlayStation once and then try to go to another account. I'm wondering if you go to a PlayStation and then try and go back to Xbox where you might have originally started, is it going to lock you out anyway where you originally started? And I think
there's just no crossplay, man. I think
it's only no crossplay if you touch the PS4 version.
Well, so I would first, right? I guess, or
no, it's not even first. If you touched it last, I was actually looking up people that were actually talking about it and complaining about it. They were like, "Yeah, I played on the Xbox for months, or I played on PC for months. Then I touched the PlayStation once, tried to move to something else, got locked out of my account." They were so upset. That was like the whole controversy right there. And I mean, they still do it. PlayStation or Sony still does crossplay with PC, Mac, and iOS, but it's not the same when you want to play on a console and you want to play with some of your other friends that might have picked it up on another console.
Well, you have the quote. You have the quote right from Sony. What is Sony? I'm reading the quote that you have out here, man. This is ridiculous. What did they say there? What was their quote?
Sony responding to the whole issue was, "We built a huge community of gamers who can play together on Fortnite and all online titles. We also offer Fortnite crossplay support with PC, Mac, iOS, Android devices, expanding the opportunity for Fortnite fans on PS4 to play with even more gamers on other platforms." I don't know how that works. But then their immediate follow-up to that was, "We have nothing further to add beyond this at this point."
So they're basically saying, it's like, wait, hold up. You can play on PC, on Mac, iOS, and Android. You can do all this. They just specifically, it's like they're locking out Xbox and Switch specifically.
They're just locking out consoles.
Yeah, so
even if it was another console, I bet if Fortnite comes out on, was it Atari's VVS or a VCS, I can't remember what it's called right now, they're not going to let it happen because they don't want that competition. They either want it to be over there or they want it to be with them. That's it.
And it's one of those things where kind of the winner makes the rules, unfortunately, right? I know people they forget, right? But this was Microsoft's position when they were on Xbox. They were doing a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, their position coming off of the 360 was so strong. I don't know if you remember, Dan, but when the Xbox One, their hubris was so incredible on Microsoft's end that they're like, oh, we're gonna sell a $500 machine, and it's gonna come with Kinect, and it's gonna tie your games onto the system with DRM or whatever services they were gonna do to where it ties it into it. And they had to backtrack, man. They had to. That's part of the reason that they're in this hole, because the hubris was so high for Xbox, you know, during the 360 era. So now the role has reversed, and now it's Sony's turn to be like, all right, well, the winner sets the rules. You know, we set the playground. We do whatever we want because you got that during the 360 era. I don't know if you remember, Dalan, but I think you had a 360, right? during the 360 era, they had the whole indies thing, and Microsoft was the worst to try to get into their summer program, to try to even get a word in, to try to even get a meeting with them. That you just couldn't do it. But yet, in the meantime, Sony was cultivating these relationships. These third parties were like, we're friendly. Yeah, sure, fine. Put your games on PS3. But it's changed. It's reversed. So now that's why I'm thinking, that's why we were talking about it previously. But I think
Switch is taking all the third parties right now. But
yeah, it is taking up a lot of that fire, right? A lot of that attention. But I don't know, man. I'm interested to see how it pans out, and I think Microsoft is really ready to kind of take the reins. I know they had Michael Pachter. I was hearing him on a podcast, so he didn't quote him directly. Well, he's not a journalist; he's an analyst, right? But he said he was talking to Microsoft, and he was like, "Are you guys okay with being second place?" And they basically said, "No, we're not happy with being in second place." So I'm kind of pumped, man, for 2020. I think 2020 they're gonna drop the Xbox 2, Xbox 7, Xbox 5, whatever they want to call it, so they can bring their numerations back in line. But it's one of those things where it's like it's going to be an entertaining next couple of years to see how this pans out.
Well, I only got two final things to actually say about this. For people that didn't actually know about the response or about the whole thing that was actually coming up for people's Switches when they tried to play it, I just wanted to read the statement that actually comes up on the Switch, which really was jarring for a lot of people. This Fortnite account is associated with a platform which does not allow it to operate on Switch. Neither the Fortnite website nor Epic customer service are able to change this. To play Fortnite on Switch, please create a new account, which was terrible. And people just looked at it like, wait, what? I was reading the thing for, what was his name on Twitter, Vicious696. Yeah. He basically said, I don't even care about crossplay. I just want the stuff that I earned. I mean, it's terrible that you just won't let people log in.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, and
that's just take off that server.
Yeah, that's fair to say, right? If there's no crossplay, at least let my account, like what I've bought, the items, the stats, or whatever, move over. But we've seen it before, right? The thing is, this is just the power of Fortnite and Battle Royale. Everything, right? It's the power of Fortnite that this would become such a big controversy, because we know about this in Rocket League. Rocket League is the same thing. We can't play crossplay with your PS4. So if you got a Switch, if you have Rocket League on the Switch, you're gaining new stats, you're getting new items. You have to buy things separately on that account.
And this is still because of PlayStation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's completely on Sony's fault. And of course, Microsoft is more than happy and willing. And Nintendo also is like, oh, yeah, we're happy to do crossplay. We want to do crossplay. And even Microsoft has come out and it's like, you're going to have to ask Sony about that. So they're very happy to leave that at their feet and put the blame on them. Rightfully so, right? Because rightfully so, but it's like I said, the winner kind of sets the rules. So to them, it's
they don't even set the rules. They just believe that they're the big dogs. They can just put themselves on the high pedestal, and they could actually just throw stuff out there. And it's not like Sony's actually losing a bunch from this. Their stock or their shares only went down 2%.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I like how you brought it on, Dalan. You brought it all your research. You brought it into it. But it's one of those things where it's like you were saying there's a big dog, and to them it's like, oh, you don't have a PlayStation? Well, what are you doing? Go get a PlayStation. They can turn customers away, but Nintendo Switch, even as well as it's doing, is still kind of behind, right? It's still behind a few years. And Microsoft is like, no, we want all the players. Even if you're going to cross-play with other platforms, we want you. We want you. So
they're kind of desperate. That's desperation.
That's kind of what it is, right? So Sony can be like, go ahead. They force you to buy their platform. Next up with 13 points, we got Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which we thought this was big enough, Dylan, that we still are going to talk about E3's Nintendo's other offerings, but Smash Brothers is big enough, and it was basically
we had Nintendo separated how big it was.
It was Nintendo's headline for E3. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate is the name. It's going to be out December 7th, 2018. Some of the details are we're going to see all of the previous fighters, including Snake, and they're going to be introducing Ridley from the Metroid series. There's going to be a new GameCube controller adapter that will release for $19.99. And they also said that the Wii U adapter, which I have somewhere here laying around, is compatible with it. Now, the interesting thing that came out from last week is that they did ask Nintendo whether it was a Wii U port, which I thought that's what it was, and it sort of still looks like that. But Treehouse localization manager Nate Bildorf, he told US Gamer, it's definitely not an update. It's a brand new game built from the ground up. As far as it being a sequel, I don't really think of Smash Brothers games as being sequels. They're just new Smash Brothers games. You obviously want to bring in new players, but you have to satisfy core players. If I'm playing Mario and I don't have a good up and B, I'm going to be writing my local congressman to get a change. It's a tough balance, but yeah, it's a brand new game. Now I'll ask you, Dalan, do you really believe that it's really, quote, built from the ground up, unquote?
I believe that the backgrounds and the environments might be built from the ground up, but those characters, they're recycled sprites. That's it.
The HD recycled assets, sprites. I would like to say.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, man. They really made a big deal out of all the changes, all the tweaks. I don't know if you saw the entire Nintendo press. Well, they did a video. They don't do press conferences.
I saw the thing for all 65 characters that are going to be launched for the Smash Brothers Ultimate. Being that you could switch faster with the Pokemon trainer. You can play as a boy or a girl as a Pokemon trainer. They separated Sheik from Zelda, of course.
Well, they also did the levels, right? Every level is going to have sort of a final destination type.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. I think they did all the levels. I bet they redid all the levels to make it more beautiful, to actually suit the fact that we have an all more powerful Switch that has good HD graphics. Unlike the Wii U, when you tried to play Zelda on it, what was it, Skyward Sword? How you had to get a CRT TV or something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was just a matter of Nintendo was so behind the times. They weren't even on HD TV, man. They just weren't there.
Yeah, in this they have an HD system, and now they have to really focus on getting the HD to really be apparent with the new Smash Brothers. And I think that they're gonna be able to accomplish that, with the exception of some of those sprites.
Yeah, I mean, it looks the same, but I mean, it's Nintendo, right? They've been able to do with smaller assets, with smaller polygons or smaller polygon count, whatever you want to call it. They've settled on an art style, right? So they might not push it. So they find other ways to push the system, to push the hardware. It looks the same to me, but to an untrained eye, it looks the same to me. But I do hear from people that got hands-on with it, and we won't know until we play it, right? But based on people that played it,
they have some videos out there.
Well, based on people that actually got hands-on to it, they're saying that it's actually at the speed between the last one, the Smash Brothers Wii U, and Melee. So it's not as fast as Melee, but it's not as slow. So it's somewhere in between Smash Brothers for Wii U / 3DS and Melee as far as speed. And they've changed a couple characters. I know they even changed some of the Pokemon. People were upset that, I guess, Charizard was a little OP in the last one, and I guess they changed some of his moves. Like he had like a downward attack or something like that, and they changed that up. So they've done some changes, but to me, it just seems like, why did you guys spend like 35 minutes on all the little tweaks to prove that it's from the ground up? It looks the same to me. So we'll find out. We'll find out when we play it. The cool thing is we're gonna have it in a much more. We did have it portable on the 3DS, but it didn't look
do
all that great. It didn't
like
look
everybody
all that
was
great,
like,
man.
you know what? I'm not even gonna get it. It's great to have a Smash Brothers, but most of the people that I know that picked it up just kind of played it by themselves.
And I think it's supposed to be 60 frames per second for all you frames per second buffs out there, both in portable and dock mode. So that's good to hear. And we're gonna have 8-player, man. It'll be the easiest we've ever tried to play 8-player Smash Brothers, because it was a headache. It was a nightmare trying to set that thing up on the Wii U. I don't know if you remember, Dan. We played it all of maybe 2 or 3 times. We actually tried to set up the 8-player.
And we did it a good number of times in the backyard.
And every time it was like
TV set up in the backyard. We were playing hard.
And every time I reluctantly did it, man. I reluctantly was like, do I really have to do it?
Hey, it was well worth it. It was well worth it.
I don't know if it was well worth it, to be honest, but at least it'll be easier. At least it'll be easier to get that.
You know why? No, you know why it makes it worth it? Because it's memorable. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's memorable for people that had to just show up. Yes. For me, that had to carry the whole system,
it's memorable
the Wii
for
U
you
controller,
too.
all the controllers, all the Wii setups, and all the the little adapters and all the other nonsense. Yeah, it's very memorable. Trust me. What else is memorable, Dalan? Next on our list.
my favorite subject as of right now. I was talking about this all day yesterday. Being that the Resident Evil 2 remake, just period. Of course, when it actually got
How
the
many points did
trailer
that
came out.
get?
Huh?
How many points did that
I
get?
was going on it, man. Calm
All
down.
right, all right, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, one of my favorite topics being here up here at 12 points. Uh, One of the reasons why I kept talking about it is because of all the changes that they were making. Of course, they had a whole 20-minute, 30-minute gameplay thing that's released on YouTube now. They have an alternate trailer for the showcase that really showed off what some of the gameplay is going to really look like. So with some of the changes that they have, they're going to maintain the overall slow pace of what the game is. It's not going to be like super fast paced like Resident Evil 6. Thank goodness for that. But it's going to have limited ammo, restricted inventory, zombies that will not die easily. They even gave an example of going to shoot a zombie a bunch of times and you just see its flesh peel away until you actually get to the core, and then it might not even die. So I'm definitely ready to play this game. Where you're in a confined space, trying to survive with a limited amount of resources and trying to make your way through the story. Now, one of the things they really did change that kind of throws off the tempo, or at least the pace of the game, or at least from the original Resident Evil, which really made it stand out back on the PlayStation 1, was what they called what was it called? It was called the zapping system, where it's called the zapping system.
Really innovative at the time, right? It's a zapping system.
It was called the zapping system.
That they would call it the zapping system too.
Yeah, well, okay. So for those that don't know actually what the zapping system is, you had two discs at the time. You could play with Claire or you could play with Leon. And there was side A and side B. Whoever you played with first was side A, and then the person you played with second was side B. But it's both people going through an area at the same time, basically. And you kind of are intertwining with each other's stories. So the items that you pick up along the way will affect the other person's story. But the new game, they ended up having to take that away. I guess our environments have actually become so extravagant that we don't necessarily need it, but they took that particular part out. I mean, their stories will still intersect, but you won't have as large of an impact on the other character's story like you used to. So that made me a little bit sad. But the fact that we're even getting a remake that looks as beautiful as it does, trying to go back to the roots of being a horror game, being somewhere in between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7, trying to take core components from those two games, being that you have your first-person shooter versus your close quarters.
They really summoned that, right? They really said Resident Evil 4. So you're thinking to when they had its whole reinvention with 4, and then 7 was the last really good one actually. And you still haven't played through it, Dalan, which is very upsetting.
Back to it.
But they really did bring that up, and I think it's actually pretty cool what they're doing, man. That it's not just a complete like let's just pretty it up and throw it out there, but they're actually being considerate of all these changes. Like you're saying, the sapping system is kind of cool because it would run in real time, sort of, or you were still going through basically like it would stop time for the other one, right? It wasn't like you're missing out on something.
No, it would stop time for the other one. Basically being you would have to go through one whole story first. Then you would switch discs and go through the whole set.
Yeah, so that was a cool, like, innovative thing that they did with Resident Evil 2, and I guess they had to come up with this whole, like, blast processing or whatever. They really loved it in the 90s, man. Their whole little quotes.
I really did.
Let's come up with some catchphrases for all this stuff.
All Capcom needs to do is come back with Dino Crisis. But the new component that they ended up making for this one that I'm actually excited about, aside from the zombie flesh thing, is the zombies not dying. If you leave the zombies to, be their own zombie wherever you shot it at, they could actually start to group up, and you go back in that room, suddenly you got a mob of zombies coming at you. And that was something they definitely didn't do.
I mean, the graphics don't look super incredible, but they look better than Resident Evil 2, right? There's a couple little things where you're like, okay, but it looks better than Resident Evil 2. If you look back, if you're not thinking about it with rose tinted glasses, you go back and you're like, that looked a little weird. And remember, if you go back, it's tank controls plus it's the whole the still images in the background, right, where you're switching from room to room. So
no, the game itself was fun, but you had those very long loading times of trying to go up the stairs, all creepy like, because it just cuts to another cutscene. Then you got to wait for the doors to open. That's
which you know they're probably saying it was to add to the tension, but no, man, you were loading. That was
you were loading. That was a loading screen.
But I'm pumped for it, man. It comes out in January, right? So it's actually out pretty soon.
January 25th.
The first half of next year, man, or like the first 3 months are just so packed.
That's because they moved back from that blast radius.
That blast radius, that Red Dead Redemption blast radius. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And you know what? I will make this. I will admit this. I never beat Resident Evil 2. I don't even think I really even played like an hour of it. So
what?
You know,
this is gonna be a new experience for you.
Maybe I go. Versions. So what I'm thinking is I do Resident Evil 1, the remake. And then maybe I do 2 and just to see. I mean, and the cool thing will be that it's going to be a completely different experience, right? When I actually play the remake, you're like, oh, okay, they changed here and here. Okay. And they were even talking about how some of the jump scares and stuff, they're not in the same exact area, so they even switched around where you think you're going to get spooked, like, you know, the dog jumping in through the windows and whatever else that's famous with the game. But I'll mess with it, Dan. Don't worry. You don't got to tell me off. I got you.
Well, I was going to say for Resident Evil 1, I have that on disc. So if you wanted to borrow that, I can let you borrow it.
Okay, we'll figure something out. Next up, Dalan, now that you got that off your chest, I know
I did. I really wanted to get that off my chest.
I'm pretty excited for it too, though, to be honest, man. That thing looked pretty awesome. So next up, 11 points. We told you guys we would come back to this. Nintendo E3 press conference. So this is besides Super Smash Bros. Ultimate reveal. They did throw out some new titles out there. Fire Emblem Three Houses, I should say. It's coming out in 2019, which I think they had sort of revealed before, but they actually gave out a bigger a trailer of the game. And you know, one of the big things that came out of E3 is that the fan favorite localization firm 8-4 will not be working on it this time around. Nintendo is probably going to do it in-house. I know they use Treehouse for different localization. And 8-4, at least they're not bitter about it. You know, they were on Twitter and they basically said, I'm paraphrasing, but they said, we're not working on it on this Fire Emblem, but we're happy to play it the same as everybody else. So, and next up, they also, this one was actually a reveal, Damon X Machina. It's
Damon X Machina.
Damon X Machina is coming out in 2019. It's a mech action game developed by Marvelous Inc. and the producer of Armored Core is working on it. They also dropped that Overcooked 2. It's coming out August 7, 2018. People thought it was going to be an exclusive on the Switch, but it's actually not. It's coming out on the same day, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And one of the cool things that they showed was going to have online play, and there's going to be a throw mechanic, Dennis. So for all those moments, you have
to chuck your plate.
Yes, you want to chuck plates. You want to chuck tomatoes and onions and whatever. You could throw them across the room, apparently.
They need to add that to the PS4 as a patch.
They really do, right? They need to patch it up and clean it up. And they also introduced Super Mario Party. That's coming out October 5th, 2018. And they showed some cool little interactions with 2 different switches. So if you have a Switch and you're playing it in handheld mode, from the trailer, they didn't really explain it, right? But they just showed it on the
thing where you shifted the map. That was
weird. They shifted the map around. So that looks kind of interesting. They also kind of reintroduced Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, or, you know, they kind of showed a little more of a deeper look into it. That's coming out November 16, 2018 with mandatory throwing motions. And you cannot take that off. You have to make throwing motions like if you were playing Pokemon Go. So,
and what if your Joy-Con don't work?
You just got to figure it out, man. You got to shake the whole handheld thing. And I think you can shake it or you move it around and you can press A or something like that. But it's basically some kind of nonsense is mandatory with that game. So just to show you that it's not a mainline the next Pokemon game. And also, of course, the day of the presentation that Nintendo did, Fortnite released, which it had 2 million downloads within 24 hours. So you can understand why the whole Sony
people were very upset.
So you can understand why it blew up. It's not a case of Rocket League where it's just me and you and we love Rocket League. We're pretty hardcore and we're like, nah, we can't play crossplay. Fine. This is Fortnite, man. This is the power of Fortnite. But out of all these things, Dalan, what were you most excited for? Which, of course, it was Super Smash Brothers, right? But of all these things that I just went over, what were you most excited about?
Well, there were a couple of games that you actually didn't mention. One of them was actually Hollow Knight. which
we're gonna add. That's your plus one.
Yeah, that's my plus one. But I still wanted to mention the fact that that was also announced. But I'll talk about that later. But Fire Emblem Three Houses, I saw the way that they actually built that out. How every time you get into a battle now, instead of you just got one character head to head, it made more sense that each character had a little army behind them, like you do in Advance Wars. And it's really awesome that you see them fighting the little tiny battle it out on the battleground, and maybe somebody will die or lose some health, and it actually makes more sense when you see them fighting.
And you can tell how much the production values, how much money they're pouring into that game.
Right? Oh yeah, they poured some extra money in that.
Well, yeah, I mean, relative to like the 3DS portable band, but it still looks pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
It looks pretty terrible. But I mean, if you're a strategy RPG freak or a fan or whatever you want to call yourself, don't mean to disparage you guys, but that's the least of your worries, right? You want to complete, you want options, you want the big battlefield, regardless of the graphics, right?
And in this case, they actually put actual maps in it where you could run around town, not just this top down, just have this whole story and you click where you want to go. No, you have to actually run around town now. So that's a big one. And for Daemon X Machina, that's actually what I'm really excited about, simply because I was a huge fan of Armored Core. I came up with a whole new expression because of Armored Core, which I'm not going to say right now on this podcast because it includes bad words.
It's convoluted, man. It's not even a good story. You guys aren't missing out on anything.
No, it's not about the story for Armored Core. It's about the gameplay and building your gear and trying your hardest to get to overcome these obstacles. You're in there being a mech warrior, period. And for this particular game, they bring Armored Core into it. They bring the fast-pacedness of Zone of the Enders that got thrown into it. And I was like, this is just a beautiful looking game. Why don't I have this already? I'm ready to play.
It looks. That's one of the things to me that I was never a fan of the Armored Core series, and it's a slower paced series, right? Compared to what we saw from this, right? Daemon X Machina, it's like fast paced, it's cell shaded. It actually looks pretty cool, man. And I'm like, all right, maybe I do want to give it a try.
Armored Core started out on PS1. Let it have its thing.
That's fine, man. But this one looks good. This one actually looks good. Not to say that Armored Core wasn't good. It was just like, I'm not down with that. I don't want to play that. But I didn't even have a PS1 either, so maybe that's the bigger problem here.
I'm gonna say
Resident Evil 1 and 2, Dalan, or Final Fantasy 7, or whatever else.
Hey, you were a little closet person.
Hey man, I skipped a generation, right?
You skipped a couple of generations. All right. Do you have anything else to add to that?
That's it. It wasn't really that big of a thing, man. I mean, you can tell just based on the fact that they spent like 25 minutes on Super Smash Brothers. Fire Emblems we kind of knew a little bit about before. Overcooked 2 is cool, and we loved it, right? We were pulling our hair out at playing
Overcooked 1.
Overcooked 1.
It was so frustrating. It was good.
Yeah, so 2, I'm looking forward to that. I will probably get it on PS4 because I know the Switch version of Overcooked 1 had issues, man. So I'll probably wait on the reviews and see, or maybe we get a code. Maybe someone wants to shoot us a
I'm hoping they have online gameplay for this.
Well, it does. It does. It's not a hope. Yeah. They're going to have it. So
okay. I didn't actually look into that. I just thought about that right now.
I mean, I just did mention it while I was running it down, but that's fine. What else do we have next?
Me not paying attention on that one. All right, but we got here at 9 points. The Nintendo president and CEO Reggie Fils-Aimé.
I put it on there, Dan. Fils-Aimé.
Fils-Aimé talks. All right. Well, anyway, she had a bunch of things that
he of my body is ready. Reggie Fils-Aimé.
I understand that my reflexes are not working right now. You know what? I'm going to chalk this up to the fact that I was playing Rocket League just before this, and those people can be frustrating when they don't know how to actually pass or shoot or block a goal.
You don't really know who the different personalities in the video game industry are, but sure. What did Reggie have to say?
I know who Reggie is. I was just messing it up very badly. Now, he had a bunch of statements that he had to make with E3, but we just wanted to talk about 2 particular ones in this particular case. One of them being about Metroid Prime 4 being absent from E3 or having any type of updates for it. And I'm actually just going to chalk up his actual statement for it, being that he didn't want to overhype the game. He just wanted to actually make it so that we had some droplets earlier on. He didn't want to actually lead us all on as time went on. He just wanted to actually have a couple of pieces of particular content and then later on give us an update when it's closer to the time. He didn't want to actually talk about something that's not launching in 2018. So we're probably not even going to hear anything about it again until 2019, which kind of sucks. I know you're a huge fan of Metro Prime. Are you okay with waiting until next year to get some updated?
No, man. Tease me as much as possible, please. I want any morsel of information, any little nugget of information, even if it's just Sam is looking at the screen and then she's just, you're looking at the back of her helmet and then she turns around and it's like Metroid Prime 4. I'm like, I'm good. That would have been perfect. And the presentation with that. But, I get what he's saying. I understand what he's saying, I guess. But maybe I hope it's further along than what he's saying, right? But I would think it would if it was really far along, they would have showed a little more. They should have at least shown a little bit of gameplay, even if it wasn't that much. Maybe 30 seconds, a minute, a quick teaser or something like that. But I didn't think on it too much, but I think the game might be a little further out than we think. Maybe for Switch 2.0, man.
Well, it also helps to have the game plan for the games that you're going to be releasing to actually stagger them out instead of having all the information all at once. I mean, a good way to actually describe it is the Marvel series is one of the reasons.
I got you
laid out.
I mean, I got you on that, but 2019 is looking sparse, man. It's looking like, what do they have for 2019, which we haven't talked about. We have no. I'm talking about for Switch specifically. We have plenty of games for all the other systems, but for Switch, what's coming out, man? I mean, they have Mario's out, Zelda's out, I mean, they have Pokemon. I guess that's what they're hoping to pin their hopes on next year. But other than that, Mario Tennis is coming out. They even got Mario Party, which they'll milk it. They have Mario Party 2 next year. But other than that, I mean, they could have showed us a little bit more. But, whenever it comes out, the unfortunate thing, of course, we talked about it before, Retro Studios isn't working on it. So I would like to at least see or to know or for my hype to deflate a little bit and be like, I knew it. It's just not going to happen. And then I can move on with my life. Now I have to, wonder. I have to continuously be in wonderment. What else did he say, though, Dalan? I don't want to talk about Metroid no more.
Hey, don't be sad, Carlos. You look sad. But I was just wanted to say in regards to that, I'm pretty sure throughout next year, one of the things being is that they were doing all those ports to the Switch, and I'm pretty sure Switch is still going to make all its money from all of its ports because that's basically what we want from Switch right now, and everybody's calling for it. So you got a bunch of third-party companies that are actually porting all those games, which we talked about a couple of times.
I'm surprised you didn't throw that in here. Yeah, so that is one of the things we talked about, right? Is that they're hoping to shorten that time because some of the examples are like for Doom came out a year later, but I think that was part of because the Switch released in March, right? So it's kind of like they kind of wanted to time it out. They don't want to compete against Zelda, right, or Mario, so they had to time that out. But Wolfenstein is one that they probably could have done day and date. And that's coming out pretty late. So I think it's just a matter of interest, and these third-party companies need to, their investments need to pay off, right? That even though it's a port, it's still an investment, right? Because sometimes they got to downgrade it a little bit. They got to figure out how to make it run.
It has to function.
They have to figure out how to make it run on this NVIDIA Shield. Nintendo Switch. So,
2.0. But anyways, the other thing that Reggie talked about was Nintendo embracing cross-platform. And I figured we were going to come back to this because, cross-platform it's been a hot topic, but as of right now, it's just one of the hottest topics because of Sony bringing that into the limelight, being that Reggie made a statement that included talking about, and whether that's Fortnite, whether that's a number of other games that have cross-platform play on our console, from a development standpoint, that's what we want. And we work hard with them to bring it to life. But the statement that he actually made out of this that I actually enjoyed was, what competitors do is their decision to make. We believe being both developer forward and fan forward is in the best interest of the game.
And you know who's that directed at? Very much.
Yeah, very much
directed at, right? At Sony, right? But Like
They got hit
we
hard, man. That's
we
actually
kind of
bad publicity.
talked it up already, right? But it's, you know, hey, the winner makes the rules. But I like this, man. I like a feisty Nintendo. I like a feisty Microsoft. That means
Oh no, that
we
wasn't
win
feisty. That
ultimately.
was subtle. That was subtle.
I mean, but it's still, you know what he's saying, right? It's not that subtle, right? It's still like, you know what we're talking about. We're fan forward, we're developer forward, we're basically the future, is what he's saying. So I like him, man.
I wonder. You know what I actually realized in part of the market, especially between Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, is there's like this rotation. Whoever's on top gets this huge hubris, thinking that they could do the most and they could get all their bang for their buck. And then the other two people are like, you know what? We're just going to take all the third parties. We're going to make a bunch of our own IPs, and we're going to do whatever we can for the customer. And then when they're on top, they're like, all right, we're going to focus on our company. We're not going to care about the customers.
Well, yeah,
and then the other two companies are doing the same thing.
That's what makes the industry.
Triangle.
That's what makes every time there's launches, that's kind of what makes the industry exciting, right? Is that it resets the board in some ways, and it doesn't reset it to zero, right? It just resets it in a way where it's like the pieces are in different areas now. They're in different spots, like, you know. Man, now you got
they just spinning the wheel every single time.
Yeah, spinning the wheel, but it's very strategic. It's in the background. It's Cyberpunk coming out on the next Xbox exclusively for a year, that kind of thing. So. But yeah, no, I mean, this is something that is ongoing, man, and it's until we get the next generation of consoles, because right now PS4 is a runaway success, man. They can basically do whatever they want. They can force you. They have a good PlayStation Plus program that now Microsoft is making moves. And you know what? Even because Sony has such a good online and PlayStation Plus program, they've had to up their game. You know, they have Game Pass, and I know they're even adding all these features where if you got the Game Pass, you can start your game faster or something like that. I should have read up a little bit more on that, but they're adding so many features, Game Pass, and they're even giving out free games that it's like, it just makes it better for us gamers. You know, at some point you're gonna have to get an Xbox One, I think, Dalan. But maybe, besides that,
what happens. Maybe I'll just skip that generation.
So next up, 7 points. So there's actually apparently Fallout 76 is being compared to Destiny. Bethesda's senior vice president Pete Hines was quick to dispel any comparisons to his own company's Fallout 76 and Destiny. He says, quote, "It's not even remotely an MMO," Hines told GameScrape. And then he said, "It's not like this or that. It's not like Destiny. It's not like any of those things. It's not like Rust, other than it's an online world with people in it. Fallout 76 is a role-playing game. It is not a PvP kill everybody fest." So what he does still compare it to something, right? So then he goes on saying, "I've used D&D to describe it before. When you play D&D, no one hands you a script and says, 'Here's your dialogue for your dwarven warrior.' No, I'm going to give you a situation and see how you handle it. Now, with Fallout 76, it's like the game is the DM and everyone inside the game has to decide how they're going to play." First of all, I don't like that. I want it to be like Destiny. I want it to be my next Destiny.
You want it to be your next Destiny.
But what do you want or expect Fallout 76 to be? I mean, the creator can say all he wants, right? But the community eventually is going to rise up and be like, we want it more like Destiny. We want it more like Division. We want it more like Anthem. Or what do you think? What do you want it to be? What do you expect it to be?
Well, people that are a huge fan of Fallout, they're pretty much going to accept whatever Fallout throws at them, especially with it being their first online game. So with the way that they actually described it, when they actually talked about it at E3, I'm actually hoping that's exactly what they're talking about. Right?
It's a little Destiny-ish.
No,
you don't think so?
It's not. It's more like everybody's a thief. That's what it's like. It's everybody's a thief, and we're all out for ourselves. Maybe we'll get a group together.
There's some cooperation, though. There's some cooperation involved, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. You can sit there, build your own house. You can fortify your defenses.
I don't want to build anything, man. I don't want to build anything.
No, it's actually, if anything, it's going to remind me more of Division in the dark zone the whole time.
Oh, no.
That's what it is. It's going to be in the dark zone the whole time.
Don't tell me that. Yeah,
that's exactly what it's going to be. You're going to have 5 people in an area trying to build their house, and you know, whatever group that decides wants to play Fallout 76 is they're going to decide we're just going to go attack people. That's all they're going to do all day.
I think
they're going to hit by a nuke, and that's going to be it.
You know, I get he doesn't like the comparison, man, but I'd rather it be more like Destiny than not. But it is its own thing, right? It is its own thing. It does look very Fallout. I enjoyed Fallout 3. before I played a little bit about it. Then they started to tell me to build stuff, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't care for this. Yeah, I'll team up with you, Dalan. Build up fortify the base and everything, and we'll go out and battle stuff, and you can come back and protect it while I'm doing other random stuff and looking for loot.
You know what's sad? People that might actually like this game even more, depending on how it rolls out, might be Fortnite players.
Possibly. Yeah, I mean, maybe, maybe he didn't want to make it because he knows the power of Fortnite and that it'll come in and crush it. Yeah, no, I mean, I like this too. He's like, it's not this. It's not Destiny. It's its own thing, which we're going to find out. And we're going to find out pretty soon. And it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing that from Bethesda, actually, that they do this for their press conferences. It's like it's out in a couple months. So we get.
And honestly, I don't want it to be the next Destiny. I don't. I just want it to be a new game that I can play and enjoy aside from Destiny or even with Destiny. And then, again, what Anthem's coming out. So I'm hoping Anthem becomes the next Destiny. Well, but apparently it might be the next multi-Iron Man.
It's like all these different games. I think it's good that, of course there's trends and there's all these things that come out, but I think it's good for the industry that they embrace. So like, all right, we're going to have our own battle royale. We're going to have our own version of Destiny because every game is going to do it a little bit different, right? Because even Division did it a little different. Anthem is going to do it a little different. And then Fallout, we get to see this is the next, we had Division, now we have Fallout, and then we get Anthem. And then we get some Division 2 with some real raids for this time around. So it all comes back to Destiny, and they all want to do raids. So as long as Fallout 76 does raids, I'll be good. I'll be good with it. But we'll find out soon enough, and I'm excited to check it out. What else, Dalan?
So what we have next on our list at 7 points is we're going to talk about Last of Us 2 again, being that, of course, we got a little bit more information. We didn't get too much more information.
Yeah, E3 was hectic.
On the download. E3 was hectic. So, of course, one of the things that people were trying to figure out was who are these characters in this trailer? But the two big things were because of the way that the trailer rolled out, is it going to be a story where they actually jump between two timelines? And apparently they were, I'm going to actually say it this way. Director Neil Druckmann, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, he hinted that he was leaning in the direction of stating we had two timelines that we were playing with in the Left Behind DLC back on the PS3, I guess it was PS4 because they released on that too. And that's something that is an intriguing way to tell a story. Being that jumping between the two stories and just kind of fluidly jumping into it, the way that they actually showed in the trailer, I think sometimes it might be jarring unless they can actually find a real good way to implement it into the story. And hopefully that is the case. But would you actually like to play a game for Last of Us where they actually jump back and forth in the timeline? Because I know for like Uncharted, they didn't do that. For the first Last of Us, it was very linear.
Well, Uncharted did do a little bit of it with Uncharted 4, actually, where they're going back and forth. They're actually going back to when Nathan Drake was a wee lad. In his,
they did those flashbacks.
So they played with it before, and you're right. It just kind of has to fit, and it kind of has to make sense. And they got to do it in a way where, like you were saying, it's not jarring. But otherwise, I'm ready for this game to be out, man. I don't want to see any more. Yeah, I don't want to see any trailers. I don't want to see anything. Part of it is some of it is kind of off-putting. I don't know about you, but some of the stuff they've shown is a little too violent, and I get it. They even said it's like, oh, well, we want you to be shocked. We want you to feel this way. It's like, well, yeah, it's fine, but out of context, out of like actually the mood of the game and kind of like the rhythm of the game, which they did. I think they did it perfectly in Last of Us. They had moments of exposition of the story, and then you had big moments where things were blowing up and you were in the middle of the action. So I think some of it, and I think they try to make up for that in this latest trailer where they were kind of, Ellie and her girlfriend, I'm guessing, are kind of dancing around, and they have a special moment, and she's kind of having flashbacks to violence, right? But so they
I don't understand how they got there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I think they'll get it right. I mean, it is Naughty Dog. These guys are masters of storytelling, masters of mixing the gameplay with stories. So at this point, it's kind of like, just give it to me. Just let me enjoy it. And I know next up you have like whether Ellie is the only playable character, right? And I think they have said that, but they're kind of backing off, right? The designer's backing off, saying we're not.
Well, it's like the Neil Druckmann, the director again. He said that Ellie is going to be the only playable character in the game, and then the designer turned right back around, Richard Chamber. He said, "We aren't saying anything about that yet."
Yeah.
So it's like the director wanted to say it, but the designer.
Well, he did say it. Well, he did say it, right? He's the only playable character.
Yeah, but now we got to take it with a grain of salt. We don't know if they're going to add another character later because the game is still in its final development stages. They could always add another character on a small level if they wanted to, as we got the surprise of playing with Ellie.
To me, it's just like I was saying, that I'm ready for this game to come out, and I'll let you have the last word, Dalan. It's unfortunate that it's so far out that it's like, just stop showing it to me. Just give it to me.
But would you want to play with Joel somewhere in the middle of the game if you could?
How did the first one end? If we want to avoid spoilers for the next 20 seconds, what happened at the end?
Spoiler alert.
The next 20 seconds.
Yes, next 20 seconds. At the very end, Joel ended up taking Ellie out of the compound when she was supposed to be able to save everybody's lives, but instead he actually went back and saved her life instead of letting her die in there.
But he didn't die, right?
No, he didn't die.
Up on the 20. Okay.
He took her out into the mountains, and I assume he went and raised her. So in this new trailer, they're actually talking. Spoiler.
Spoilers over.
Yeah, spoilers over. They're referencing the old man, which they're talking about Joel, and they confirmed that.
Yeah, whatever secondary character they would use. I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, Ellie is Ellie or Elle, I think. Yeah, Ellie. She's a strong enough character that I think it's fine, and she's grown up, right? We have the story. We have the story with damn, I forgot. We just said his name. The main character, Joel. So we have the story of Joel kind of being on the same journey together, and she kind of growing up alongside with in this new world, that zombified world. Which I think Ellie is a strong enough character where you just play with her, and that's fine, and we get to see her story. But it's like you're saying, it's with the grain of salt. We still might play with another character. By
the way, zombies, clickers.
That's fine.
Clicker.
All right, so we'll leave it at this thing can't come out soon enough, right? Stop showing me stuff. Just drop it.
Stop showing me stuff. Hurry up and take my money.
Yeah, just hurry up and take my money. Please take my money. So next up with 6 points. I don't know if you know this story, Dalan, but there's a Dragon Quest Japanese myth that just actually got confirmed. And I don't think it made that much big news. It was like one little story that kind of came across my feed. Game Informer apparently got to interview the Dragon Quest producer Yu Miyake about the myth that the series is sold on weekends because kids would play hooky to go pick it up. He says, quote, "When Dragon Quest 3 came out, tons and tons of kids skipped school to go buy the game," Miyake said. "The police actually said, you guys need to do something about this. This is not okay." And this was back in the era of Enix. And so Dragon Quest started being sold only on Saturdays. Actually, it's the only series sold on Saturday. And another wrinkle to the story is that the series used to be sold actually on Thursdays, but would quickly sell out because Nintendo wasn't able to physically manufacture the games quickly enough. For you youngins, the games used to come on cartridges, used to come on those SNES cartridges, and they were pretty limited as far as how many they could produce. And part of it was
there's only so much plastic in the world.
Well, not even that. No, I think it was just the manufacturing of it. It's a very specific mold, whatever it was. It took enough time to where it's like, how many do you want? Where you can only order 300,000 or whatever it is, and the next batch is 500,000 or whatever it is. But so it's interesting because it's always been the myth that why does Dragon Quest release on the weekend or on Saturdays? And people always say it's like, oh, it's because kids would go out and skip school to go buy it. So at some point they said, hey, you got to do something about this. And they did, and they confirmed the story. But I think it's one of those things where it's, it's more proof that where there's smoke, there's fire, Dalan. For example, the Atari landfill where they talked about at Alamogordo in New Mexico, they actually filled up Atari carts. And it was a whole big old myth, and they made a whole documentary about it, and they dug it up, and I was there, and I had a bunch of orange.
I was there. I like the way you threw that in.
I had a whole bunch of orange dirt on me, like just all over me. When I took a shower, I had to take like 2 showers to get all the orange dirt off of me. It was nasty, but it's one of those things where like you hear these different stories and you're like, oh, maybe there's some truth to it. We just need someone to confirm it. Had you heard this before about the Dragon Quest thing, or you hadn't heard about it before? The myth or the
I didn't actually think it was a myth. I knew the story itself, simply because I know that for the longest time, the police presence and the community presence actually try very hard to work together in order to try to actually make sure that the community stays safe. Unlike America, don't get me wrong, we love our police presence sometimes. It just depends on if they're doing a good job or a bad job.
Sure, Dalan, sure. Make it political.
All right, fact being is that for Japan, they're very much about whether or not the police departments are actually embedded in the community. So there's a lot of people out there that actually know their local chief. Where here in the U.S., very few people know their chief. But being that people were skipping school and people were concerned about their kids, they were like, yeah, we need to figure this out. Instead of people going to pick up this game, we need kids in class when they're there. When they're already there 12 hours a day, we don't need them skipping out on 8 hours because they want to go play a video game. That's like most of their day. And, Japanese are very much.
Well, it's a cute, friendly story that you made deadly serious. So thanks for that, Dalan. But it is one of those things that for years and years, and it was an EGM and everything else, that it was like, oh, yeah, apparently that's why it releases on the weekend, because kids skip school. So thanks for the background. Thanks for making it deadly serious. I thought it was a very whimsical story that got confirmed, but whatever.
In itself, it is a whimsical story because you got these kids that are actually like, ooh, I want to have fun. Let me go skip class so I can pick up these games. No, we can't have that happen.
And it goes to just how big the series was, I think, right? Yeah. It goes back to just how big. Dragon Quest here in the U.S. is not that big, right? And there's a reason why they skipped us for one of the games, right? Was it 10 or 9 or whatever it was? They skipped us. They're like, whatever. We don't miss those sales. So in Japan, it's huge. It's a whole. It might even be a holiday or whatever it is, where it's like it's Dragon Questing. Everybody's gonna go pick it up.
I think there were a couple other games they did that with. I think one of them was Monster Hunter. And another one was like
Monster Hunter's big. But Dragon Quest is just so old, right? It goes to the late 80s or something. So it's just kind of like every time it comes out, it's a really big deal in Japan. What's the last one we got, Dan, before we go to our plus ones here?
At 5 points, Destiny for Forsaken. We can talk about the Gambit mode, and well, I guess you want to bring it up in this particular fashion. Dead Cade 6. If you guys haven't watched the trailer, I'm sorry. Go watch the trailer. See the announcement for, or at least not the announcement, the actual E3 reveal that they had for it. Kind of sad talking about the career mode. So what I'm actually going to talk about first is being that there was a guy who actually works for Game Crate. His name was...
We've actually met this guy, Dalan. Q, remember we met him at the podcasting thing, Podcast Awards. We met this guy.
We did?
Yeah, so shout out to Q. I believe he introduced himself to us as Q. So shout out to Q.
That's probably why I didn't recognize it. Well, I'm going to call
it. What was his opinion on Gambit?
QB and Salazar Moreno. But anyways, he had a chance to actually play the game, and he ended up writing for Game Crate, of course. He had an opinion on the Gambit mode, the new release for Gambit mode, and part of the career, because he had a chance to play 30 minutes of the career mode. Fans ended up building a shrine, or the RIP shrine for Cade 6 because of that trailer right after it dropped, with the assumption that Cade died is just too powerful. It was too powerful for people. So
we would have visited that, right, Dylan? We would have visited that little shrine, right? Had we been at E3, maybe next year there's somebody else, another beloved character dies, and they start doing this.
It was in some kind of a warehouse that kind of looked Destiny-like, and they.
I actually don't even think it was a warehouse, man. I think it was like outside of the. No, I think it was outside in like the E3, because I don't know if you've ever been by the convention center, Dalen. There's like a big little front area that they probably could pick the side, and that's where they did this tribute or whatever. I think it was like it wasn't like secluded or anything like that. It was like probably where people were walking by. I was like, what is this? What is this?
It's a sigil for Cade 6. He's gone.
So that's ridiculous. I just thought that was a ridiculous little story. But what about Gambit, Dalen? That looks kind of cool, man. Gambit looks pretty cool.
All right, for Gambit mode, being his opinion, that Q said that it's a fun and fast-paced experience. He actually gave a very good insight of what the gameplay is like. So just if you don't know, if you like Destiny and you want to actually try this new PvP mode or PvE mode, I guess, you have 2 teams in 2 separate arenas. that are trying to kill monsters, and as you kill them, they drop motes of light. When you gather enough motes of light, you go to your base, and you're actually your bank, I guess. You're supposed to deposit the motes of light, and when you get enough, it'll actually open up a portal for one person to jump into the other arena and start killing the other team. So it makes it harder for them to be able to kill the other team. And while you're there, if you kill any of their characters, it'll actually give their monsters back some health and make it, of course, harder for them to actually do it. But the reason you're actually putting all the motes of light in the bank is as soon as you hit a certain amount, you're actually supposed to summon your primeval boss, and the first person to kill their primeval boss wins. So I'm actually wondering what this primeval boss is like. I know that there are videos out there, but I haven't actually watched any of them because I want to surprise myself.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be like what we got with the... What was the Skolas? No, I think it's going to be closer to... Well, yeah, maybe like Skolas or... like the Crota's, what is it? The Crota's ring or whatever it is that where the bosses change. I think it's gonna be one of those, man. I don't think it's gonna be like this big old raid boss, but it looks pretty cool, and it looks like something new that they're fusing into Destiny that we haven't seen in for years, man. The game's been out since 2014, right? It's something new that is sort of PvP/PvE, where it's a mix of both, where you're actually doing PvE for the most part, but you're actually competing against a whole separate team. So it's kind of like a time attack challenge, but it looks pretty cool, man. It looks like fun.
It's a race to kill the boss.
And I hope we can get some good loot out of it, right? I'm sure it's going to be thrown into sort of like the PvP category, right? And you get to jump in there and you get to play this, and it counts for crucible points and all that, or maybe it has its own separate gambit points or whatever it is, right? But
well, I don't know about the gambit points.
I'm saying I don't know. Maybe it's a separate thing, or maybe they do include it as part of PvE or PvP, but who knows? Maybe they throw in a separate. You play Gambit and you just keep playing this new mode that they've introduced.
Don't forget the two additional things is that with the new mode coming out and Forsaken just coming out in general, you're going to have the ability to actually pick up weapons that could actually be in other slots, being that you can get a rocket launcher for your primary or secondary gun, or the same thing for a shotgun, and you could possibly have 3 shotguns equipped. He had his bow and arrow equiped as a special weapon.
Dan, like Reggie would say, my body is ready, man. I don't know about the whole pricing. I don't know about the whole pricing structure or anything like that, but my body is ready. We apologize to Jeremy. I know he's like, stop talking about Destiny, but hey, man, sometimes Destiny news is big. We gotta throw it in there, right? Anything else, Dan, before we go into our one last thing that we want to mention?
No, I think I've talked enough about this.
All right, one more thing. So my one more thing is just a quick thing. Rocksteady, I know for whatever reason they decided to come out and issue an E3 apology. So if you don't know, Rocksteady are the guys that work on Arkham Asylum, you know, the Arkham Batman series. And they actually came out, the co-founder, Sefton Hill, tweeted an apology to fans that were expecting to see their next project at E3. He said, quote, "We know some of you were disappointed we were not at E3 this year. The whole team has been reading your comments, and all of us here at Rocksteady really appreciate your passion for our next project. Knowing how much it means to you keeps us inspired and energized to deliver a game that you will be proud of. We'll share with you as soon as it's ready." It's actually rumored that the team is working on a new Superman game, and it's supposed to be 3 times as big as Arkham Knight. So, you know, all that, trying to figure out a Superman game, Dalan, where it's like, how do you kill Superman? I guess it's taking them quite a bit of time. Did you miss Rocksteady? Did you feel like their presence was missing? I know they're part of the Warner Brothers stable in a sense. Do you feel like you missed them, or?
I actually did miss them because I was hoping that they would make a different version of Batman, because there was a point where we were supposed to get Gotham by Gaslight. Instead, we got that animated movie that was kind of boring and made me fall asleep. By the way, Batman Ninja, worst movie I've seen in a long time. But
you're very upset by it. You're very upset by it.
That is a whole different conversation. I'm not going to have that conversation right now. I'm just going to say that was a terrible movie. But when it comes to Rocksteady making video games, I really don't care for them making a Superman game, because it's really hard to make a Superman game where Superman does get beat up or you get knocked out, or they have that whole health thing where if you get hit enough, you know, your screen starts to fade and then you pass out, whatever it might be. I just think that's a dumb concept for Superman.
Well, yeah, we've yet to see how they figure that out, right? We've yet to see kind of how they're gonna go about solving that
Yeah, so what
existential issue, that big issue. How do you beat Superman?
Yeah, I would just prefer that Rocksteady focus on some of the other DC characters because you still got the Flash who came up real hard. You got the Green Arrow who's basically Batman. You got Wonder Woman who could also fly, but at least she could be knocked out. I mean, you just have all these other characters that you could work with. But if they're working on Superman, I guess they got to think real hard at what they're going to do next. They're going to have some really strong enemies.
You know, and it's sort of
with Superman.
It's sort of a good position for them to be in, right? The fact that all these fans come out in droves, like, what? Where's your next project? We want to see it, right? So it's a good position to be in, right? As far as Rocksteady is concerned, like, oh man, people care. They care enough where they're like, where are you guys? Where's your next project, right?
Yeah, but did a lot of people really prompt them to come out and say something?
Well, yeah, enough to where they had to tweet about it. I mean, you don't see the little tiny companies coming out like, oh, we're sorry we didn't have anything to show. It's like enough people had to question them. I was like, where were you guys? They had to issue a tweet where like, well, we apologize for not being out there for you guys. But
yeah, after the Batman,
we're working on how to kill Superman. That's what we're working on. So
yeah, after the Batman trilogy, it's kind of hard to just disappear right after that because they were kind of really big titles every time.
Yeah, they were up there, man. They're pretty good games. So what's your last one, Dalen?
My last one being a +1 because I did mention it earlier, being the Holy Knight trailer. That was actually
Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight.
Yeah, Hollow Knight. No, I said Hollow Knight. Being that I know that it was released on the PC first last year, but that doesn't matter. It still looks good enough to actually be released on the Switch. And I didn't actually get a chance to play it on the PC. I don't know if it's on Steam. Is it on Steam? Do you know if it's on Steam?
I mean, it's on PC, man. Most likely it's on Steam, PC. Right? It's like Steam is synonymous with PC, right?
Now.
For the last 15, 20 years, then good job on the now.
I wouldn't say 15, 20 years.
15, 20 years, man. When did okay, 13 years or something. When did Half-Life 2 come out? When did Half-Life 2 come out, man?
All right, well, we're gonna look into that later on. But as for the fact that
I feel pretty confident with my yearage. Maybe not the 15 to 20, but when Half-Life 2 came out. But anyways,
I'm pretty sure. Anyways, being that it's going to be coming out for the Switch in this particular case, you put here that it's cutesy. I don't think it's cutesy.
Don't be telling people what my opinion is, Dalen.
Your opinion is cutesy. I think it's kind of dark. I'm going to call you out on that. You called it cutesy.
Nah, man. It's what I was going to say, and we'll just end it on this for another salient points. Carlos Macias. And my co-host Dalan Kirk. You can find me on Twitter at @AduceClean. Dalan, where can the good people find you? And your Mission Impossible music video hasn't been shut down yet. We have to get more views, man. Once it gets enough views, it'll shut you down.
Well, we'll see what happens. Anyways, you got Dalan Kirkwood. If you want to reach out to me, you can shoot me a message at CloudNeftis2 at YouTube. So that's where you can find me.
Yeah, I mean, Dalan, you really didn't have anything else to talk about. I mean, this is like a cutesy platformer with the quirky art style, man. And it's out. It's been out for a year, man. I'm not messing with that.
Yeah, I'm actually a pretty good fan of good platformers, and if it looks like the animation is good, I'm gonna play it.
You like the morbidness of it. Just go grab it on Steam, man. Stop messing around. Stop throwing it on your +1. There's plenty of other things you could have thrown on your +1. But whatever.
I do need to get Cuphead though.
It's the cutesy platformer with the quirky art style. Get out of here, man.
All right, I'm gonna go play
are we back on 360 Indie Summer of Arcade or what, man? Get out of here with that.
Hey, I'm gonna go play Rocket League. I'm off.